Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where a couple of 90s babies rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time tweet entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by or affiliated with any of the channels, actors, shows that we discuss on this channel. We just really love talking about TV. And today we're talking about the sweet life of Zack and Cody.
Season
2.
Part 5?
Yeah.
I think we're on part 5. This is going to be the last episode of season 2. We've already covered all of the episodes that we felt were really good or important to, I wouldn't even say there's a storyline in The Sweet Life. It's very sitcom-esque. But that's been covered in episodes 1 through 4, and you can go back and listen to that if you want more of a full recap on The Sweet Life in general. But as I was finishing season 2, I noticed these 3 episodes in particular, which all fall at the end of the season, that felt like they were trying to do something kind of political. I've dubbed this The Sweet Life Takes on Civil Rights. It could also be The Sweet Life Gets Serious. So these are episodes 32, 34, and 35 that we'll be discussing. And so content warning beforehand. In episode 32, we will be discussing segregation, but more so racial stereotypes. In episode 34, there's talk of eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And in episode 35, it's about physical disability, so we might get into ableism. Fun. Looking forward to that. But before we get into all of that, and there will be timestamps for those, whether you're listening to the audio or if you're watching on YouTube, there will be chapter markers wherever you find those to skip those episodes if you find those ones to be triggering for you. But before we get into all of that, Jessica, what have you been enjoying lately?
I think maybe you've mentioned this on the show before, but I'm not sure. I'm going to do a game. I have been enjoying Stardew Valley. It just had a patch come out, which is like a pretty detailed patch. With a bunch of new updates. You can have multiple pets. You can put hats on your pets. There's also just like a button, lots of graphics and bugs and things fixed. I haven't played probably in like a year now. And so now I'm starting another playthrough and I just freaking love the game. It's so cozy. It's so fun. I'm still in the first year. I'm in summer. So I'm still deciding like who I want to romance, and it's a pretty early game. I'm always like broke, but it's just such a fun game. Every time I get back into it, I'm like, gosh, I don't know why I ever stop. It's one of my favorites. I know Amanda loves it too.
I do. I love early gameplay too. I think that the creator of Stardew has done a really good job. First of all, I just love that he's more obsessed with this game than anyone else is, because it's been hugely popular for so long, but it's been out for so many years that most of the players like ourselves stopped playing a while ago, but he's still like, let me give you all of these new things.
Well, so what happened was like 5 years ago now, probably, maybe 4, around the time when they brought in co-op, which I know was around the time of the pandemic. He was like, I'm not doing any more patches, no more updates to Stardew, because I want to work on Haunted Chocolatier, which is his new game that I don't know when it's going to come out.
May at some point come out.
Yeah. And then like a year ago, he was like, okay, I'm pausing work on Haunted Chocolatier. I'm going to give you guys a big patch, but then that's it. So he comes back every few years and he's like, fine, I hear you. I'll make some updates.
I know. And I love it. And it is such a cozy game. I started playing it again recently. I did a one-off because I needed a day off of my phone and socials and stuff. And I saw that the patch was coming. I didn't even know. It was like a week before the patch came out. And I was like, good to know. I'm about to lose my life again.
What have you been enjoying?
First of all, shout out to the t-shirt. If you're part of our YouTube or socials, you will see it. If you're audio only, you are severely deprived. I'm wearing a t-shirt that says Ethan Craft and has six, I don't know,
Five?
an amalgamation of, I just keep gesturing at my breasts.
Mm.
Beautiful images of our one and only Ethan Craft, custom ordered by Jessica for me for my birthday, and I love it very much. That wasn't going to be my what I'm enjoying lately. I just wanted to give it a shout out because you should really be checking out our YouTube to watch to see it. What I have been enjoying is this book. I finished it a couple weeks ago. It's called Monstrilio, and I almost wish that we had done a What Are You Enjoying during our last Young Royals, because it's a little more applicable to the Young Royals plot. It's a debut novel by Gerardo Samano Cordova. I probably butchered that, but it's one of the most unique books I've ever read.
Oh.
It opens up with two parents mourning the immediate loss of their child, and out of just pure instinct, the mother cuts off a piece of his lung because she wants a part to keep him, and he only had one lung when he was born, so that was like a symbol of his life and death. And over time, she feeds this lung and it grows into this little monster that is carnivorous, but also like reminds her of her child. And you get four perspectives of the mom, the dad, the best friend, and the monster as it ages. And it's very much like a beautiful book on grief and also queerness, because like everyone is gay, and just like so unique.
Yeah, it sounds very, very, very unique. Also, maybe a little dark.
Yeah, it is a little dark. That's why I was like, this fits more with Young Royals.
Yeah.
But it's not so dark as to be depressing to me, because it's also just such a comedic situation. It's magical realism, which if you don't know is like, it's not full on fantasy. It's like everything about their lives is the real world. It's our world that we're living in, except for this one thing that is magical that could not happen. This little monster growing out of a piece of a lung. Like,
Yeah.
okay, before we get into the episodes, I wanted to throw in one more disclaimer. If you've been listening to us cover The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, as we took a break to do Young Royals, Quiet on Set came out on Max, and it's good. Go watch it. Whatever, that could be its own topic. But in it, it was revealed that Brian Peck, who was Drake Bell's abuser, was not only part of the Nickelodeon family, but after being committed and doing his time, was then hired on for The Sweet Life. We didn't know that before. He voices the mirror, which is not in any of the episodes we're going to discuss, but may come up later. Just a reminder that shitty things are happening all the time, and we didn't know that that was a thing when we were talking about how funny and quippy the mirror is. And now I think it brings to light a different perspective of, this is a voice commenting on people's bodies. So that's fun, and I think that kind of sets the tone. Episode 32.
A Nugget of History.
I love that you wrote the guest stars Phil Lewis's grandma, Rose Mosby, as if Phil Lewis isn't in every single episode.
Okay, but it is kind of a guest star. We don't,
Yeah, what in the Tyler Perry?
So, with that, Mr. Mosby's grandma, Rose Mosby, played by Phil Lewis, shows up to the hotel, and he's really not looking forward to her visit. We see her arrive, and he's just a little frazzled. Later on, we see her come up to Carrie's suite because they're going to go shopping, and she reminds the boys to get their homework done before she gets back because they have a project that's due the next day. And Zack is struggling because he's like, nothing happened that was exciting in the 1940s. I don't want to write this multiple page paper on it. This sucks. And Rose is like, I lived during that time. So many exciting things happened. And she starts telling him about Hugh Mulzac. He was a commanding captain of the first integrated crew of the U.S. Merchant Marine in 1942. And she knows all about this because she was a dancer and the USO, and she performed at the ship's departure. And so Zack gets like really excited. We never see him get excited about school, and he is fucking stoked about this paper. He can't wait to get it back. He wants to know what his grade is, but he gets a D because the teacher is like, this is inaccurate. Segregation like continued on through the 1950s. Like there was no integrated crew in the 40s. And Zack was like, I know you're saying what's in our textbook, but like this was not included in the textbook. Like this is accurate. He ends up getting 3 weeks of detention because I think he talks back to the teacher maybe. And so he brings Rose with him. He's like, I need you to back that like what I wrote was accurate. And so she comes with him and she pulls out a piece of paper from the day the boat left out of her purse and gives it to the teacher. And the teacher's like, oh, you were right. And then Zack ends up getting an A+.
Yep. I'll cover the B plot. London's dad tells her that she has to get a job, so she decides to get a job at the Cluck Bucket because she has to ruin Maddie's life and Maddie works there. Maddie's put in charge of training London because she has to ruin Maddie's life. And London sucks at everything. She can't even read the drive-through script. She can't make sandwiches. She doesn't even cluck in the costume correctly. Maddie is working on a really complicated order for a customer, and this is back when it was like, if you don't get it done in a certain amount of time, it's free. And London's distracting her, and the timer runs out, so the customer gets a free meal, and Maddie gets demoted, and London gets promoted to the front counter, which was like a big deal for Maddie to get in the first place. But then a football team comes and it's swamped and she can't do anything right, and Maddie refuses to help London, and it's just lots of annoying back and forth. Eventually, Maddie is like, she's in the costume, the tail catches fire. They both get fired, but then London was like, slay, girl boss, I'm gonna buy this place and hire you back.
Yep.
That's the B plot.
That's the B plot.
Do you want to do notes on A or B first?
Do you want to get B out of the way?
I kind of feel like we should get B out of the way.
Okay.
This is so stupid and unimportant.
It's stupid and really unimportant. There is a note that in this job that London is being forced to get from her dad, that he's giving her $1,000 an hour for every dollar made. And like, I know they're rich, but how rich are they?
Well, this was what, 2006? She wasn't making that much per hour.
She comments that it's $6,000 an hour because she's like, $6,000 an hour adds up. So $6 an hour.
$6 an hour is so low.
It is really low, but still.
Yeah. And that's how she can afford to buy the Cluck Bucket, because of all that money.
Yep. It made me sad that London mentioned she would never be caught dead eating a french fry, because that's one of the best form of potatoes.
100%. Hands down. Agreed. When Maddie's training London, she has this dumb little trick on how she makes the sandwiches. It really bothered me because she spends all this time being like, look, I have this trick, blah, 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 blah. But she's really just going down the assembly line. All the ingredients are already in order. You're making it more complicated. Didn't like it.
Agreed. Okay. My one semi-serious note on the stance that we have stood for a little bit, especially Amanda, is that Maddie's a bad friend.
Call me out.
Yeah, but I never like thought about it until you pointed it out, and now I see it in like every episode. I'm like, fucking Maddie being a terrible friend, how dare she?
Same. I never saw it growing up. I see it now, and now I can't unsee it.
Yeah. And so London gets promoted by no fault. Well, okay, I don't want to say no fault of her own, but it's just an unfortunate situation that Maddie gets demoted. And so Maddie decides to take it out on her by not helping her when she's swamped until money is involved. So London's like, I'll pay for the down payment on your car. And that's when Maddie's like, fine, I'll help you. And then her tail catches on fire. And to me, while she's sitting there being like, I'm not helping you, you never do anything for me, blah, 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 I'm like, one, London does come through for her all the time. And two, you only ever are a friend to London if she's paying for something for you. Yes. If money is not involved, you do not care about her. Like a good friend, even if you were fighting with someone, a good friend would be like, I'm annoyed with this person right now, but she's in a really unfortunate situation. And if I was in her shoes, I would step up and help out. A good friend wouldn't be fucking petty like that, even at 16, 17.
And we see it over and over and over again that Maddie only agrees to help London when London buys her friendship. And London makes comments about how one of the things she struggles with is she doesn't know if people like her for her or because she has money. And Maddie almost sympathizes with this, but then continues to be one of those people who really is only her friend because she has money.
Money. 100%.
It pisses me off. Okay, but notes on the A plot, because this is really why we're here.
Yeah, and I think I have one note that transitions perfectly is like, we spent so much time on that damn B plot. Like, this was an episode that I would say was pretty 50-50 split. Like, maybe even favored the B plot slightly more. And because we spent so much time on that stupid ass clock bucket, we spent no time on the A plot, so it has no opportunity to go anywhere productive or great. They just didn't give it the time it needed.
I agree. I think that it had a few small merits. I liked that they spoke about a figure in Black history that I personally had not heard of before.
Me neither.
I don't know about you, but you hadn't either. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also like the point about how textbooks aren't always accurate. And to anyone listening who's confused, the point was that the teacher said that the Navy didn't desegregate until I think it's 1948. But they're talking about the Merchant Marine, which was controlled by the military at this time. And it is all accurate, the person they're talking about and the time period and whatnot. So oftentimes, it's the whole, they say history is written by the victors, whatever. So I liked that part of it, especially since I have a degree in history and a lot of my degree was about reading through the bias and the gaps in the way that we teach public history. But like you said, there's just not really enough time dedicated to it. And my biggest offense from it is that the character that they introduce into the show, Grandma Mosby, which first of all, I think by age should be his mom, not his grandma.
I didn't even write that down as a note, but right when she went on screen, I was like, she's not that much older than Mr. Mosby, who's portrayed to be in his 40s.
I know. I was like, what is this man supposed to be? Like the oldest 25-year-old?
Yeah.
She should be his mom. But also, she fits into multiple weird stereotypes of portrayals of Black women and Black people in general in media. First of all, it's the Tyler Perry version of it all. We've seen this with Raven doing the costumes, playing older people, and it's good physical comedy that Disney likes doing, but it's starting to feel like it's more often the Black characters than it is the white characters.
Yep.
She has this giant Mary Poppins bag, is what you called it, where she's just pulling things out. It's like the bag that the grandma has in Halloween Town. She specifically pulls out a giant tub of moisturizer saying she doesn't want to get ashy. And then she also pulls out a giant tub of peanut butter and calls it lunch.
Yep.
Both of which were just crazy outlandish to me watching that in the same episode that we're supposed to be learning about Black history. It really pissed me off. So I'm already mad and we still have 2 episodes to go.
I know. Well, and it's yeah, I just feel like part of me wants to appreciate what they tried to do, which was teach us about someone that none of us has heard about, but then everything else they did after or alongside it makes you upset.
Wrong.
Yeah, because I'm why did we give her a Mary Poppins bag? We could have made her character something that we continued to, someone we learned from throughout the episode. She could have been this character with nuggets of history that she's throwing out, instead of feeling like we had to make her this super comedic character in a way that edged on not appropriate.
Wasn't she also big bootied and making just like weird jokes a lot of the times, like not fully all there. It was kind of, and that's part of why I'm bringing up the Tyler Perry. Obviously, other people do stuff like that. I think Jim Carrey has done movies like that, but it was kind of Medea like in the portrayal of just being this like sassy, quippy, but a little bit weird and big bootied woman.
Yep.
Do we have more notes on the A plot?
No, I just think my thing is like, not that the Raven Black History episode was perfect, but like we know Disney can do something like this well. I'm not saying it was perfect. I'm not saying it is the best ever prime example, but it was good. They did it well. We know Disney can do this, and they did it in an earlier time frame than when this episode was released. And so it just sucks to feel like they're going backwards.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue into what you put, because I think that brings to light how much the network matters versus how much the people behind the production really matter. So Jess wrote, okay, I finally had to look into the writing. That's her subtitle for this.
Yeah, normally I write like notes, quotes, and this one I was just like, I had to look into the writing because I was like, this is getting out of hand. Basically, the way that all of these episodes function that I learned now that I looked into these three, I'm saying all, at least these three episodes all function the same way, is Jem Giagon and Danny Callis, who are creators, are credited on every single episode for writing as creators of the show. And then each additional episode just has one additional writer credited, and that is it.
That was my impression as well, is that those two were the primary writers on all of Sweet Life and on Deck.
Yep. And my thing with this is, so the lead writer for this is Dan Signer. It's not Singer, Signer. It's the only episode he wrote on season 2. He writes 4 episodes in season 3, and he goes on to write 16 more for Sweet Life on Deck. But you are taking on an episode on segregation. That's what you decided you're going to do. So you bring on one additional writer, and it's a white man.
Did you check that?
Yes. Yes.
And it feels like a handful of white men got tasked with writing an episode about segregation in a show with a predominantly white cast. And I think Sweet Life is often probably... Actually, no, I'll take that back. Sweet Life gets applauded for its diversity because we have Esteban, we have Brenda Song, and we have Mr. Mosby. So we have 3 people of color. Aside from the fact that Esteban is a crime against all Latina people.
Yeah.
But
the writing.
It is very disappointing. It feels very half-assed.
Yeah, and it just feels like they... I don't know, like, spend less money on, like, building out a freaking fast food set and bring in, like, 5 additional writers.
Oh, and also a real actress. Could we just hire an older black woman to play his grandma?
That too.
Could we just pay people money?
Yeah.
Support careers?
Yeah. I went on to write, like, I really hope that this is not exhaustive of everyone in the writing room for this specific episode, but I went and referenced other shows, and they do list multiple writers, where this just listed that one additional, so I am believing that that is the only additional writer. But I do think this is why this show constantly is disappointing us in the writing. Like, you'll hear it a lot in this specific episode just because of the topics that are discussed. But if you go back to any of our other season 1 or season 2, I think we mentioned the writing at least 5 times each episode.
And it does feel like a show that has a consistent tone, which could be indicative of how few people were working on it. And it's a good thing to have a consistent tone in most instances, but when it's too insular, then you can have a problem.
Yep.
Quotes?
I wrote down, even though we said we didn't like the purse element of Rose, there is a moment, I think it's one
Zack
of the boys. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Zack. And he goes, "Quick, hide me in your purse," which it was kind of funny.
Yeah. When London is telling Maddie that she has to get a job, she says, "I can't even say it." And Maddie says, "Really? It must be more than 3 syllables." And I, in my notes app, credited this to Maddie the bitch.
Yep.
Moving on.
Episode 34. Help
and fitness.
Our guest stars in this one, we get Georgina Rosso as Francesca. She's not a notable actress, but I did want to write her down because she is the older sister of the British twins that we get a few times throughout this series.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that
she
either.
was their older sister.
Until I looked into it. And then it makes sense because they look kind of like similar-ish. Other really small appearances, not notable characters in the show, but notable actors. We have Zack Lively as Benji. He played Heath in Greek. And then we have Brock Kelly as Ron, who was in Pitch Perfect and like long reoccurring character on Days of Our Lives.
Which plot would you like to do?
I'd like you to do the A plot because it's gonna piss me off.
Okay. A plot. It's Health and Fitness Week at the Tipton, so all of the employees are lined up to get their cholesterol checked because that's not strange. Carrie is reading the pamphlets about childhood diabetes and cholesterol and decides that Zack needs to go on a diet because he's literally hoovering chocolate bars in this episode. Chef Paolo also gets his blood test, and apparently they find bacon bits in his blood. That's how bad his cholesterol is. And so Cody, who we've seen in the kitchen repeatedly, Chef Paolo is his friend. He volunteers to help Chef Paolo with his tasting of the food and his diet because he's like, I'm eating 2,200 calories before breakfast, and it's my job to taste the food. So while in the kitchen, Cody goes to grab the Parmesan for a second and returns, and Chef Paolo has eaten an entire pot of soup. He's doing great with his diet, and then he shoves the entire wedge of Parmesan into his mouth. Things just keep disappearing. We don't even see him chewing. The next day, Cody is so proud of Chef Paolo for going an entire day without breaking his diet. But as he is getting ready to leave, he notices that food is hidden everywhere in Chef Paolo's uniform and starts falling to the ground. So finally, to help him, Cody decides that the best thing is for Chef Paolo to have a sleepover at his apartment, which is, as we know, a suite in the hotel where he works, where he has a completely stocked fridge. That makes a lot of sense, Cody. So Chef Paolo sleeps on their sofa, and Cody prepped him a midnight snack of one chocolate chip, which he wakes up to eat, takes a tiny bite, saves it for later. He and Zack have this thing because Zack wakes up to sneak a chocolate bar that he hid in a cookbook because Carrie never uses her cookbooks. And then they're like, what are we doing? There's a whole kitchen downstairs. And Zack's like, we can go through the vents. And Paolo's like, we can go through the front door. And he's like, I have a reputation to uphold. And then they go to the kitchen where they're just shoveling ice cream into their faces.
With their hands.
With their hands.
They're not even using utensils. You have a whole kitchen.
I couldn't even get my hand into ice cream straight out of the freezer. It would be too hard.
And cold.
So they're shoveling ice cream into their faces, and Carrie and Cody come down to the kitchen and find them, and they admit that they have a problem. And Carrie's like, I probably shouldn't have made you quit sugar cold turkey, and it's okay to enjoy things in moderation. And Cody wants Chef Paolo to think about eating healthy as a lifestyle and choice. So he makes a new healthy menu and names it after Cody.
Our B plot. London is hosting a fashion show alongside Health and Fitness Week to raise money. And this is where we're introduced to London's friend Francesca while they're picking out outfits for the show. And she makes comments on both London and Maddie's bodies. And so Maddie's now afraid that she has chicken legs, and London thinks her butt is too big. And they both look in the mirror, and it's like a fun house mirror, and it makes their bodies look all distorted. It's not really a fun house mirror. It's a normal mirror, but what they're perceiving in their brain, it's distorting their body like a funhouse mirror would. So then we see them in the lobby, and London is running around the lobby in circles trying to lose weight, and then Maddie is like taking 2 bites of like protein bar and then like standing on the scale and then stepping off and taking more bites and standing back on the scale, constantly weighing herself, trying to gain weight. And so Mr. Mosby stops them, and it's like, what the hell are you girls doing? You look wonderful the way you are. But the moment he walks away, they both continue to do what they were doing before. And so at the fashion show, Maddie's dress is now too tight, and Carrie is trying to get it zipped up, but the zipper ends up breaking and the dress rips a little bit. And so Carrie has to go and get her like a shawl to cover it up. And then London is so lightheaded, she literally can't even walk in a straight line. And then while they are like walking on the runway, and London's not really walking, she's more like dizzily spinning in circles, they end up exposing Francesca for stuffing her bra on stage. And so after the fashion show, they both have a little heart to heart, and they're like, you know what, Mosby was right after all, and we should both be happy with the way we look. What, everything we put ourselves through was silly.
I have to say, Jess's first note, first of all, I knew making her watch this episode was going to piss her the fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Her first note is that she got so pissed 4 minutes into the episode that she almost turned it off and told me that she couldn't watch it. And I had to do the A plot because she is so pissed off about the A plot. But listening to the summary of the B plot, I got so angry. I can like feel my blood boiling and I might cry. The B plot really fucks with me.
The whole episode is terrible. Unfortunately, I do think there is some realism into the experience of being a teenage woman in the B plot, and that's why I feel like it made me less angry, but the whole episode in general made me angry.
Okay, let's do the A plot.
I think this is the note. I don't know who wrote this, but I agree. If Chef Paolo is sleeping on the couch, which we know is Carrie's bed because there's only one bedroom and Zack and Cody sleep in it, where the fuck is Carrie sleeping?
I wrote that note and I would like to know. If Zack and Cody were cuddling, I would like to see it.
Let's get into the fat phobia of this. I hate all the jokes that surround Chef Paolo in any episode that we have watched, but specifically in this episode, like, we really did not need to see him eat a whole pot of soup in 5 seconds. Also, at one point, they literally have him on his hands and knees on the floor eating leftover in-room dining, like room service plates that like guests left outside their room. It just feels like really dehumanizing to Chef Paolo and his character, just because he does also happen to be fat.
He is, and it's not satirical in any way. These jokes can be quite offensive. There are ways that people could argue the jokes surrounding some of these topics could be done in satire, in like social commentary, etc. But we're not laughing at society. We're laughing at him. And it's, I agree. I don't like it. It's also a weird thing to me because he works in this kitchen every single day. It's not like he's just eating all of the food all of the time. Like, the ingredients aren't disappearing.
Yeah, and that's what they like lead us to believe in this episode, is that like he is just like so hungry and just like on the need for calories constantly that he's just like shoveling full dishes into his mouth. And it's like, no, he could just taste the food and still have the body that he has, and it could be fine. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And the fact that we never actually see Cody taste any of the food. We just see Cody ridicule him. It's like, Cody, you signed up to help him out, and we don't actually see the helping out that Cody signed up for. We just see like Cody constantly shaming him for when he does want to eat anything. And also the far, like, either you're like so unhealthy and he has bacon bits in his blood, but like we swing so far that we're like, now he's just not allowed to eat anything.
Yeah. And saying it's a lifestyle choice, but you're expecting so much of him overnight and just making him feel really awful for it, instead of trying to actually like see where he is struggling and coming from and helping him. And obviously, like, this is partially because Cody's like 12 years old and he shouldn't be doing this in the first place.
Sure.
But it's just so unwell. I definitely felt like there was a time, I think there were some more studies published in the early 2000s or something about this, because I remember type 2 diabetes being like drilled into us as a risk. because I also remember being told that ours was the first generation to have a shorter life expectancy than the ones before it because of increased rates of childhood diabetes. And so we had like the Nickelodeon, like get out and play commercials coming on, and Michelle Obama telling us to like cook healthy ingredients and shit like that. Like this felt very of that time, but equating to like fatness to diabetes is quite inaccurate and damaging. And then if you wanted to actually like, if you really want to tackle diabetes, make one of them actually diabetic and talk about how to live a healthier lifestyle for that particular issue.
Yeah. It's also like the common myth that like if you do have diabetes, then you need to like completely change your full lifestyle. Like a lot of them eat a normal diet and continue eating all the things that they ate before. It's just what you need to supplement with that changes. So there could be a lot of ways to do this story. Well, I didn't love the bacon bits in the blood.
No, because that's just a joke about him. Because obviously that's not like that's not real. That's never gonna happen. It's just a way of joking about him.
Yeah.
Are we both getting mad? But here's you have one fun note.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this, which makes sense why I'm not going to say I've never seen this episode. I definitely have seen it before, and watching it, I'm like, oh, I do remember this episode, but it didn't stand out as like when I think of Sweet Life, I don't think of this episode. Thank the Lord. It was included as the never before seen episode of That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana on the DVD. So I'm like, what? This is what they picked? They're giving us That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, and then they're like, here's this fucking fat phobic episode. Here you go. Here's your treat. Why?
I don't know. Maybe they were like, Nick Jonas is so brave. Which, by the way, he has type 1. It's different.
Yeah. I was like, he doesn't even have that type of diabetes.
Yeah, but they're not really talking about diabetes, Jess. They're talking about fat phobia. They're talking about being fat.
Yeah.
So, I think it's funny that you don't remember this episode, because to me, when I think of the Sweet Life, I think of the B plot on this episode. It is one of the quintessential Sweet Life episodes. I have known since we started this that this episode was coming and it was going to piss you off and we were going to have to talk about it. So the B plot, we're ready to move on?
We are ready to move on.
Okay, I have to go on like a little rant about how much it upset me, because I think you're right that there's a lot of things that are true to like the teenage girl experience. First of all, Mosby being like, you girls are beautiful the way you are, and then being like, oh, haha, and then not caring. That's very, very real, right? Is like older people try to tell you and reassure you, and you're like, I don't hear it. Like, that's not real. But they're portraying body dysmorphia without knowing that they're portraying body dysmorphia, like the funhouse mirror thing and the way that they're focused on their bodies. But I saw this at a young age, as most people did. We were the target demographic for Disney Channel when The Sweet Life was on air, even getting a little bit old for it. This is a core episode memory for me, and I have grown up with a lot of body issues, and I've definitely thought and had not full-on eating disorders, but disordered eating, and like I just feel like so much of it stems from stuff like this. And we had the Lizzie episode with Miranda's eating disorder that wasn't handled super well, but like wasn't this bad. And we had the Raven fashion show episode that you noted where she was like owning her body. Like it's like you said with the previous episode, like there are times when Disney did it not perfectly, but better.
Yep.
And I think what's particularly harmful for me in this one are the comments that Francesca makes that leads them to this sort of spiraling, because she says that Maddie has chicken legs and that London's like, what is it? Her butt is huge. And those are both things that then 10-year-old Amanda was like, oh, I should be worried about those things.
Yeah, because even if you're not thinking about it. And while I do like that, I don't even know if I like this, but I think, right, in the end, both of them come around and are like, we should have loved our bodies this whole time. which, like, great, but maybe we should have focused on that throughout the plot instead of just wrapping it up that way in the last 30 seconds. But there is nothing, we don't ever see them or get any closure with them, like, telling Francesca, you made us feel this way and you are struggling with this too because you stuff your bra. And, like, clearly I think about my body and you're thinking about your body, and maybe we should all just think we're beautiful. Like, if all of them came together with Francesca and they had a conversation, I feel like it would have made the episode better.
I also need to emphasize, I've mentioned it before, how fucking lazy the endings are to a lot of Sweet Life episodes. Like that episode where Maddie kisses the guy that London's talking to, and then she just gets forgiven in the credits scene. In this one, there's no revelation. It's
Mm-mm.
just that they're unwell. Carrie's like, hey, take care of yourself. Francesca's stuffing her bra. But really, when they decide that they're gonna own it and like think that they're beautiful, is they go on a date with a couple of hot guys who tell them that they're beautiful.
Yeah. Which still is like, that's making it worse because it's like, so now are
External
you,
validation.
yes, are you teaching women that they need to seek validation from others instead of, like,
And from
learning
men,
how to yeah. Yeah.
it really, really bothers me. And I know that some people probably think that I'm taking this too far, but I just want to like emphasize the first time I became aware of the size of my body, I was in the second grade. We were walking to our cubbies, and one of my male classmates spanked me on the butt and said, big butt. And ever since then, I have felt large. I am an average size woman, but I have literally always felt large in my body compared to the rest of my friends ever since then. And I believe it's about a quarter of girls have gone on a diet by fourth grade. And I had
Mhm.
one of those best friends who was on a lean cuisine diet with her mom in fourth grade.
Yep.
So
I did Weight
these,
Watchers with my mom in middle school. And I would
yeah.
say I have a pretty body positive family compared to other friends when I hear about comments their parents have made to them or their mother made to them growing up. My mom never did any of that, but they're still, right? Like, it starts somewhere and it stems so far that it's like, no middle schoolers should be doing Weight Watchers with their parents. Like, that is just so fucked.
No, and part of that is what your mom was conditioned to think about herself and your body, and the way that nutrition and health get thrown around with diet culture as if they're all the same thing, and they're not. No wonder it's so hard for us even now at 30 years old. I still struggle. Like, I'm just now starting to feel somewhat confident in my body, and that's not even without faults and flaws about the size of it.
Yeah. Like, I know Amanda knows, I don't know if I've spoke about it, but, like, I have done a lot of self-work to be, like, comfortable and confident most days. Not every day, but most
Mhm.
days. But it's taken a lot of rethinking of what we were shown in media and what we were told growing up and things like that. Like, it has taken years and years and years of work and restructuring where my brain naturally goes to
Mhm.
feel confident about my body. And it shouldn't be like that. Like, you shouldn't be
Same.
broken down from second grade. So then when you're 25, you're having to, like, rebuild yourself up for the last 15 years of terrible things you were taught and told to think about yourself.
Absolutely. I don't even know how to end that. I just think that the representation in this storyline, though I see where the episode was going, theoretically, where it intended to go, I think that both of the storylines are portrayed in a way that is more harmful than positive.
Yep.
Did you want to talk about the writers for this one as well?
Yeah, I did. So, in addition to the two creators, the lead writer on this episode was Howard Nemetz, who wrote 9 episodes of The Sweet Life and 1 episode of Sweet Life on Deck. Ones that we've covered here so far that he also wrote was Rockstar in the House in season 1, and then Election, Mosby's Big Brother, and Club Twin in season 2. I just thought that was interesting because I don't remember any of those plots handling such serious topics or being as terrible as this one. Also, of course, it was a man.
That's what I was going to say. So there were no women in the room.
No. And I think that's why these stories kind of play out the way they do.
I wrote down both of the quotes because those were the quotes that upset me. They're both from Francesca, who I described in my notes as classist British bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point, because she meets Maddie and she's being a jerk to her, London says, we can only criticize people that we pay. And she says, fine, your butt is huge and you have chicken legs, and then hands them both money and walks off. And then when they can't get the zipper up on Maddie's dress, she says, unfortunately, you didn't gain the curves in the right places. So, episode 35.
Back in the game.
I'm going to be so for real, guys. This one's going to be the easiest one for us to talk about, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
So, guest stars, we get Nathan Kress, famous Freddie from iCarly, playing Jamie.
We get Daryl Mitchell as he plays Daryl. He's in 10 Things I Hate About You and plays Patton Plame in NCIS. And then we also get Denzel Whitaker as Trent, who's recurring on All That and The Purge. The Rockland Rollers, a wheelchair basketball team, are at the Tempton, which inspires Zack and Cody to call up their friend Jamie, invite him over, because he hasn't been the same since his accident. In order to get him over to the hotel, they pretend that Jessica Simpson is there. They invite Daryl, who's the coach of this team, over to their suite to kind of greet Jamie and meet him, because they're like, oh, if he meets someone in the same situation, they both are wheelchair users, maybe he, will find someone to bond with and be able to come out of his shell a little bit more. Carrie suggests that they play a game against Zack and Cody's team for charity, and when Jamie gets over, he's upset because he's like, dude, you lied about Jessica Simpson. This was all a ploy just to get me back on the team. Everyone's preparing for this game, and Jamie shows up and they're like, oh, you actually want to participate? And he's like, no, the only wheelchair exit is through the gym. Like, I'm just trying to leave. And he's also like, I don't want to stay and watch you guys make a fool of yourself because you're going to get your ass beat. It's game day. And to everyone's surprise, Jamie shows up to watch, and Zack and Cody's team is losing terribly. And so Jamie steps in. They end up losing, but only by single digits. And then Daryl invites Jamie to join the team that he's going to start in Boston.
B-plot, because it's the dumbest of all 6 plots that we're covering in this whole episode. Maddie's working on a student film. She asks all of her coworkers to get involved. It's supposed to be about classism and some rich guy elevating a poor guy, whatever. Everyone sucks. They all are divas. And she ends up editing it into a comedy documentary and wins an award. It's fucking stupid. That's how filmmaking works. I have the only note about the B plot, which is it's a stupid film by a stupid bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So, A plot.
Starting out a little bit light, this is prime Carrie sucks at cooking in this episode. Because before her like amazing idea where she's like, oh, we're going to do this charity basketball game and bring in a bunch of money, she was prepping for a bake sale instead. And like, I couldn't even tell you what she was trying to make. Like, maybe a cookie, but it was like green, but also burnt, but also flat and really unidentifiable. And it just made me giggle.
And just as someone who bakes all the time, for Christmas, she bakes cookie boxes full of like 3 to 5 different kinds of Christmas pastries. She can identify a pastry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know what she was holding up. Like, it looked crazy.
Yeah. I wrote, of course, Arwen made himself a crazy electric chair because everyone's in a wheelchair for this basketball game and he's the basketball coach. So he makes himself a really wonky one that just does a bunch of stuff because that's what he does.
In the episode that we get with the basketball team, Kisses in Basketball, I think is what it's titled, Jamie's not on their team.
Maybe that was post-accident, right? We don't know how long. he's
Okay.
been.
Okay, sure.
It's a classic show, like Disney and Nick and kids show thing though, right? Where they introduce a guest star for one episode and they're supposed to be like the entire plot is centered around this one character that we've never seen before and will never see again.
Again, yeah, fair.
Yeah. I wrote Jamie chooses to play and they all do a lot better because all it takes is one player who's never played from this angle, you know, because famously basketball is not a team sport.
Like, maybe, yes, right? Like, his ability to use his chair is probably more skilled than the rest of the boys who are not wheelchair users. So, like, to an extent, I could see how him playing could help the team. Do I think it's making them come up from, like, losing terribly to only losing by single digits? No.
No. And maybe he plays at home. I don't know.
I feel like there were a lot of things that we could have touched on in this episode, but instead of doing that, what they did decide was a good use of the time was to just put all of the wheelchair and disabled tropes and jokes into one episode and be like, called it good. We covered disability, guys. Check that one off the list.
Yeah. There's another note similar to one of my own that I copied and pasted, which was that Sweet Life is the weirdest fucking show because it tries to be political harder than any other show that we've talked about, but also does it so half-assedly. Like,
yeah,
they just are like checking boxes.
Yeah, I just feel like it makes it worse. They spent all this time being like, oh, all of these jokes that we use to make fun of or poke at disabled people, I want to write those into a script. So I'm going to pretend to do this like political, like, oh, we have wheelchair basketball. Look how inclusive. Look how fun. But then I'm just going to say all these horrible jokes. Like, what?
Full disclaimer, Jessica has a physical disability that is not a visible disability, whereas I do not. So your commentary on ableism reigns, obviously. I didn't mind the jokes in this one as much as I did the jokes in the other two because they felt satirical. I liked Daryl. I liked the way that he clapped back at the jokes. There were a couple I didn't like. Like when he tells Jamie at the end of the episode that he'll teach him how to use sympathy to pick up girls.
Yeah, did not love that.
I did like that at the beginning of the episode, Mosby's being extra nice to the kids in the lobby and he tells them no special treatment. And I liked that there's this really weird exchange where he like acts like Carrie's coming on to him and like maybe he wants to go on a date and she's clearly uncomfortable, which like that is weird of the whole like not wanting to date someone who's disabled. But then she makes a comment like, I dated a guy in a wheelchair once, maybe you know him. And then he says like he has a girlfriend and he's like, no, she can walk, maybe you know her. Like I felt like some of his lines were kind of good.
Oh, I feel like his lines were good. It was more like what was being, because in that same conversation, Mosby, around the girlfriend, Mosby's like, oh, is she disabled too? Which is just like this weird thing where we think that disabled people can only date other disabled people and we can't have like interabled relationships. It's just very weird.
It felt like it's problematic. It's like if the other ones were like really problematic, this one's like a middle point. It's like we're not doing anything great, but we're not, I don't know, it's
yeah, no, I agree. I feel like I don't know if they thought they were like setting out to do anything or if like maybe someone was just like, oh, wheelchair basketball is a thing, that would be cool, and then they decided to like run with that because again, I don't think they're not failing as hard as they did in the previous two episodes, but they also aren't using it as an opportunity to like do anything great either.
Yeah, and I think that really stands out in that we don't know about the extras, but at least the people with speaking roles, none of them are actually physically disabled.
Besides for Daryl.
No, he's not, is he?
Yes, he is. He is a wheelchair
actor?
user. Yep, he had a spinal cord injury and he is a wheelchair user.
Okay, I love learning that. Thank you for checking that, because I fully was going off of I love this man as an actor. I absolutely adore him in 10 Things I Hate About You. And I think he's the reason why I look at this episode more favorably, is that he just like eats everything up.
Oh, he does a great job. And a lot of people like love his character in NCIS. I'm not an NCIS person, but people like really, really, really love him as an actor.
He's fantastic. If you've ever seen 10 Things I Hate About You, he's the actor that like raps Shakespeare to get the kids to pay attention and also gives Kat shit and just like constantly is telling her to go off to the guidance counselor's office because he doesn't want to deal with her. So anyway, I'm glad to know that our main guest star is a wheelchair user.
Yeah. Everyone else, because they were children, I tried. I looked at all of them. But like
the extras?
Yeah, but it's like they were all given names, so I don't know like if the name they were given was on like Zack and Cody's basketball team or the wheelchair basketball team.
Mm.
And then all of them have no other acting credits, so it was really impossible. I wanted to know. I'm like, I hope they hired wheelchair users to play these roles. I highly doubt they did, but I hope they did.
I highly doubt it, also because I didn't notice any different looking bodies. They all looked like they could stand up and walk. There was no one who was like missing a limb or was like had really bad scoliosis to my eyes.
Yeah.
So
But you can't always, right? Like some people just are wheelchair users and you can't see a notable difference. But yes, if you're going to have a whole team of them, you would think at least one or two.
That's my point. That's my point. Is like a whole team. There's going to be there's so many reasons for people to be wheelchair users.
Yeah. I will touch on writing real quick on this one, just because I thought it was interesting. Our writer is Pamela L. O'Connell. She's written 15 episodes of Sweet Life, and I think my guess is every episode of On Deck because she's credited on 71 episodes. She also wrote Ghosts of Sweet 613, but also the Boston Tea Party episode, which I was like, oh, this checks out. We're setting up to do something and not doing it well.
Yeah. One a classic, one a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's not the Halloween one.
Yep.
This one had the most quotes worth saying.
One of the quotes from Daryl is, just because a person is in a wheelchair doesn't mean you need to give them special treatment.
Facts.
Yep. Let's just treat people like people. Also, I fucking love Bob. Bob is so good. He has a quote in this episode, which is, well, I believe in frequent short naps, which, Bob, me too. Me too.
And he says that in response to a quote I wrote down from one of their classmates. My dad says if you aren't giving your maximum effort, you're a waste of human life. That just felt like it hit a little too close to home. Mm-hmm. Not that my dad has ever said that, but I maybe have to myself.
Yeah.
There's also, at one point, Mosby, I think, asks Daryl, how did you end up in your wheelchair? And Daryl gives the greatest comedic delivery of, I'm in a, holy cow, why didn't anyone tell me?
Yeah.
I really liked him. And now that I know that he's a wheelchair user, I feel like that's probably part of why his lines are so good, is he may have been given more say as a guest star who came in for this role.
Yeah, and like his delivery, unfortunately, probably a lot of these conversations are conversations that he's maybe had to have in his real life. And so the delivery just feels more natural and more naturally comedic because that's probably a coping mechanism. Yeah, I did appreciate the inclusion of him.
Do you have any other final thoughts?
No, I'm glad we watched those. Don't need to go back and rewatch them.
You see why I grouped them together, though?
Yeah.
I want to point out for listeners that this is not indicative of the entirety of the Sweet Life, and we're being heavily critical in this episode, and we are sometimes heavily critical. I should probably ease up on Maddie. She's 16. But it felt like we could easily have skipped these episodes and just talked about the ones that we're enjoying or the ones that felt memorable from our childhood. First of all, the latter two that we talked about stuck out to me from my childhood. Mm-hmm. But also, it would be a disservice to the point of our podcast that we're rewatching stuff to see if it holds up and talking about the good and the bad. And we have to talk about the bad sometimes. It doesn't mean that the whole show overall sucks. It's just that sometimes it did.
Yep.
Sometimes.
With that, in our next episode, we'll be back kicking off season 3 of Sweet Life, our final season. So look forward to that one. Make sure to come back and check it out. In the meantime, make sure to rate and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and follow us on all of our social media, including Instagram and YouTube at 90s Babies Nostalgia. Spell out the word 90s. We are also on TikTok, but use the numbers there.
I've been having a lot of fun on TikTok, guys.
Mm-hmm. And we've been getting like more engagement, which we love. So like DM us, comment on our posts, like let us know your thoughts. If you have any thoughts, especially about these 3 episodes we discussed today, would love to hear your thoughts or your memories of watching it as a child. With that, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.